Hi, this is the second Logic Pro session. In this session we're going to be looking at quantizing tracks, which means to put tracks into time if they're out of time. Basic editing using the piano roll, so that's a way of changing the notes that you've inputted or putting new notes in. Bouncing to MP3, this means taking your Logic project and creating an MP3 of the end result. We'll then be uploading these MP3s onto SoundCloud. So the goals for the session, that by the end of this session everyone in the group will be able to produce a quantized recording. So produce a recording where everything's in time. Edit the recording using the piano roll. So you want to make sure that you've all done some basic editing. You all need to be able to bounce. And you will need to be able to upload a track to soundcloud.com. So by the end of the lesson you will all have uploaded a track that we can listen to. Right then, so here we are back at Logic. I've got a project set up here with 3 instruments set. And I'm going to record in some notes, and then we're going to try editing them. So let's start with some drums. So I've got a drum kit set here, which I can play from my keyboard. I've set the loop for 4 bars. I've got the metronome on, so I've got a click, and I'm going to try and record in a drum part. So I press record. Okay, so there's a drum part. It's not bad in time, but as you can see down here on the piano roll, which we can open and shut by pressing this button, some of the notes aren't quite, I can zoom in a little bit here, some of the notes aren't quite in time. Now sometimes this is fine, sometimes this gives us a bit of a human feel on what we're playing, and that's what we want. But other times we want to get it bang on, particularly if it's sort of electronic type music. So we're going to use quantize. Now quantize is something that we use in editing, where we can pull all of these note values to the next nearest correct value. So for an example, if I look at this bar here, this is bar 2 of the recording, up to here. So this is beat 1, 2, 3 and 4. So within each of these beats you can see we've got 4 subdivisions. So these 4 subdivisions are going to be quarters of a beat, which we know as semiquavers or 16th notes. Now we can see that the parts I've played aren't quite matching up with these lines, but there's quite a lot going on, so quite busy part. So we're going to try quantizing 2 16th notes, meaning to drag all of the music to the nearest 16th note. So the way we do this is we select everything by pressing Apple or Command A, and then up here in the quantize grid we select 16th note, and you can see that everything's been slightly moved. So hopefully now if I play this, it's bang on. Now I chose to use 16th notes because it's quite a small value. I'm playing quite fast notes on the hi-hats. Even though the hi-hats are only playing 8s, I've set it to 16. It's good to start with a small note, and then if that doesn't give you the effect you want, you can slowly get bigger. So let's try a different part. Let's try putting in some synth. So same thing again. I'm going to play it from the keyboard. Okay, so again I can look at these parts and I can see that they're not quite matching up with the lines. They're pretty close again, but let's do exactly the same thing. Now, because I'm playing very long notes here, I could actually select a higher quantize value. So I could select all these and quantize so that it's on the bar, which would be a 1-1. So that means everything moves to the nearest bar line. So you can choose the quantize according to how long the notes are. And let's just record one more part. Oh, not on that sound though, that sounds particularly dreadful. Let's just open up another one on here. That'll do. So remember, to get the sounds up, you press the media and select the library. So again, select record. And again, here's my part that I've recorded. Again, pretty close, but because of this style of music, I think it'd be better if we had it absolutely bang on. We can see a few little gaps here and there. So I'm going to select the music again. Oop, not like that. Well, that went badly. If ever you get something like that happen, you can always select undo. So I'm going to select all the music. I'm going to select a quantize value. In this case, we'll try for the 16ths again. It's usually a pretty safe one to quantize to. There we go, things have just moved slightly, so I'll just make sure that's right. Yep, that sounds bang on. So, that's quantizing. The next thing I want to look at is actually using this piano roll editor to change what I've put in. So for example, if I look at the drum part, so I'll just back onto here, and we can see the drums here. This is the kick drum, the bass drum, the snare drum and the hi-hats. Now there's a few things we can do from this editor. We can select notes that we want to edit, so I might want to select that second hi-hat, and I can make the hi-hat longer by going onto the right hand side of the note, holding down the mouse and moving it out. Now you can see here I've got all of the notes selected because I've pressed upper A, but you can do that individually with a note. So I can drag that along there and make it longer or shorter. I can also delete notes, so while it's selected I can press the delete key and it will disappear. And again we can undo to bring that back. And I can also move notes, so by clicking on it I can move it up to an open hi-hat and we get a slightly different hi-hat pattern there. So that's kind of what we can do with the editor. Anything can be edited. We can look at these chords that I played on the synth. Now these are all selected. You can tell when they're selected because they go dark. Now I might want to make these chords all last right up to the end of the bar, so I can just drag them just a little bit, or I can make them shorter. So let's make these half a bar long. Can you hear the effect? So really useful editor, this piano roll. Just put these back vaguely how they were. There are other editors. The score editor's good. We can see things. This will really help us with the theory side of stuff. We can see what's going on. But for now, let's stick to the piano roll. This is the one we're going to use today. We will use the score editor later on. Right, so we've got a recording in here, and now we need to bounce it. Now, bouncing is extremely important. You're going to have to do this a lot. There are two ways of getting to it. You can click on bounce here, or if you're going to the file menu, you can select bounce at the bottom here. Now remember, bouncing turns this project into an audio file that can be played or uploaded to the internet. So here's the bounce dialogue. First thing I'm going to do is change the name. So it's got a very boring name at the moment. We'll call this Pete Synth. And now we need to tell it where to bounce it to, so where to put it. I tend to put everything on the desktop. My desktop's a complete mess, but I find that's the easiest place to find things. So there we go, so I've told it to go onto the desktop. And now the most important bit, the destination is the type of file down here. Now we don't want to bounce to PCM most of the time. That's a very high quality thing if you're going to kind of burn onto a CD or something. So we'll get rid of that and choose MP3. The next thing we're going to do is make sure that the bit rate is set. Now the bit rate, for most times, we're going to want that set to 128. That's pretty normal CD quality. You can change that in here. There's quite a lot of settings up to very high quality. But 128 is good because it means the files aren't too big. We can ignore all this stuff. The other thing that's important is the start and end. Now we need to make sure that the start bar is where our arrangement starts and the end bar is where the music ends. The easiest way of doing that is to make sure that all of your music is within one of these loops between the two locators before you bounce. But if it's not, you can always set this here. So we could change that if we wanted to. Again, don't worry about the other stuff on there. Okay, so that's all set, ready to bounce. So I'm going to click bounce on there. Doesn't take long, and it's done. Hopefully. So I'm going to quit myself out of Logic. And let's get back to the... Ooh, plenty of rubbish here, sorry. Get back to the screen, and hopefully I can find somewhere on here. Here we go, Pete Synth MP3. So that's bounced there. I can open that up using QuickTime or Media Player or something like that, iTunes. But the next thing we need to do is just to upload that onto our SoundCloud accounts. So here we go, I've already logged into my account. And all you do, very simple, click on Upload and Send, choose File, and so here we go, we're looking at the desktop here, we can see, so I just pop down till I find Pete's Synth, there we go, click on that, open it up, it's asking me if I want to change the name, which I don't, that's fine, I'll just put in here the description was Logic Tutorial. Number 2, quantizing. I'm not going to bother all this stuff, you can if you want. Going to make it publicly available, not bothered who can see this. And that's it, I'm going to click Save Track. Now we just have to wait until it tells you, there we go, it's up. And it's creating the waveform here, sometimes takes a couple of seconds. You've got something new loaded up, or more than a couple of seconds if it's feeling particularly slow. But that's basically it. That's how you create some music, quantize it, edit it, bounce it and upload it to SoundCloud. Hope that's been useful.